Hey Josh, good to have you on this podcast. It's
Nice to be here.
it's one of those. I think it's one of those things that we miss out every time when someone buys a motorcycle. Is not to call someone like you and ask you such questions. uh, I would do exactly the same thing, but I didn't do it when I was. I wouldn't do that. I myself didn't do that when I was buying the Tiger. I was like, okay, you know what? Let's buy it and then we'll take care of the cost later. So I think it's a
Fair enough.
it's good to have someone like you, and I'm sure there's a lot of people who are sitting there going, oh, okay, this is also a good way to do it. So
Right.
there'll be good insights from you.
I mean,
So
it's like I say, measure twice, cut once. So
yeah.
that's important.
So I mean, let's start off with you first. I know you were a
Sure.
journalist for some time, and then you started writing and wrenching, and so what happened?
Well, actually, to be honest, straight out of college, I was exposed to the motoring journalism scene. I met Bijoy, who was running motoring at that point on a road trip, and he offered me an internship, which then eventually converted to a job, and I was having a great time. I mean, it's the life of a motoring journalist is quite enviable. You always have a new car or motorcycle, which does not belong to you, so you don't have to worry about the maintenance.
Yeah.
You ride it, do whatever you like, and then you get to travel, and it's really fun. But beyond the point, you realize that you're sitting behind a computer more than sitting behind a computer writing about people and the things they're doing, and you're not really doing the things that you want to do, which might be the things that they're doing. So I don't know if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I get it.
So it's inspiration enough to sort of get out, and I was like, okay, I don't want to do this much longer. And also, I think that kind of job can be done at any age or time, and I don't think it's like you can run out of sort of time to do that. So I decided I should do something new, and aviation market was booming at that point. So I decided to sort of go learn how to fly, and I took a year and a half off, and I went to the US and learned how to fly airplanes in the hope of coming back and getting a job and sort of being able to fund my passion. And I did come back in the middle of recession in 2008, and it was quite a shit show. But, not being one to sit around, I decided, okay, motorcycles are still around, and they're not going out of fashion. If anything, the market in India is opening up. And so when I did come back, I started wrenching on a project that I was, a motorcycle that I already had. This was my first motorcycle. It was an RD350 that I bought for 8,000 rupees.
Oh,
and so it was sitting in my workshop downstairs. So I went, rebuilt the engine, built a sort of black track bike, which I then was doing a lot of track days with RD Dreams.
But did you know about the motorcycle and the engine and how it works? And if I remove it, I'll have to fix it back. Did you know anything about it, or you just started?
I mean, ever since I was a kid, I've always opened stuff and very seldom put it all back together. But with motorcycles, it was a little different because my dad used to do a lot of wrenching, and in Bombay, I have a friend who was also my partner later on, who went with Garage 52 called Mario, and I spent all of my teenage years bunking college and hanging out at his workshop. And of course, he was sort of nice enough to allow us to wrench and learn, and he took the time and patience to sort of teach me stuff, and like whoever else. It was not just me. There were a bunch of kids that were always there. And I think a lot of it was, we all gave our bikes to Mario to fix, and he was so busy that we went and fixed them ourselves. But as part of that, we learned so much, and of course, thank you to him, because not many people share knowledge like that, and he was very, very open with it. So I think a lot of sort of my learnings and my basics come from there. So I think that was a good run.
Yeah. So my tryst with the Garage 52 was the same thing. I knew about you guys. And the funny thing was, I actually felt there was somebody finally getting some culture of motorcycles and bringing motorcyclists together and having a fun party. And that was once that I came in and I was like, wow, this is so cool. You bring motorcycles and drink your ass off. So
The parties were always fun. No one looked at what was happening here.
Yeah.
No one.
That's true.
Of course, I'm not going to complain because it was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
But of course, the pressures of having to run a workshop of that size when you're independent with no funding and make ends meet is, make ends meet is not the problem. It's like sort of save up for a rainy day, which is, sort of the hard part.
Yeah.
I think that's,
But do you really believe that there's money in it, or is there a different way to do it, or what was?
No, there's definitely, with every passing year, all the way from when I first started renting back in 2008, there's always more money in it the next year. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
How do you capitalize on that more money is important. How do you make that money come to you is important, because a lot of people in India, I'm going to just put it out there in general, a lot of people in India are very skeptical about a mechanic.
Yeah.
And I don't blame them. They've had mechanics from the 70s, 80s, people with old, BMWs, not in stands, and there's always been jugaad. There's always been, we can't get parts. How do we fix it? And then as a result of that, they've had bad experiences. Motorcycles haven't been fixed properly. Then they lose interest or lose trust in the mechanic. And so people are constantly sort of wary of a mechanic. And I have a T-shirt that says JC Moto, the place where dead bikes come to get resurrected. Because I see what happens. I see what happens is that people go around, go to various people, and then they can't fix stuff, and then it's like, this guy will do it, and like I'm always left with seeing everybody else's mess up. And it's a lot of fun, it's a lot of learning, but it's also very, very frustrating, So so I think that mindset of this mechanic trying to gyp you has to change before the mechanic or the workshop or anyone who's technical starts learning or is able to make the money that is due to them, because people still see the guy on the street or the mechanic or whatever. He's got dirty hands, he's a laborer. He just turned a bolt and my bike is working great.
Yeah.
You're not paying him to turn the bolt. You're paying him for the 30 years of experience he has to know to turn the bolt to make your bike run great, So I think people need to start changing that mindset, that the guy who's working on your bike or the technician is not just the guy who's turning the bolt, but he's a guy with all of this experience that money can't sort of buy, It's not hard. You can't go to a school and say, I'm out of... even guys who go to places like MMI or any of these other sort of certified schools, they don't come out experts. They come out knowing everything about a certain kind of motorcycle and the way it runs and sort of the philosophy of, let's say, BMW or philosophy of Honda. So more or less generically how motorcycles run, but there's no way that the guy comes out an expert. The expert is the next 20 years that he's running his workshop or working for somebody,
Yeah.
So I think the money, coming back to your question, the money is definitely there. I think it's up to the customer to realize that he needs to do justice and pay people who are fixing his motorcycle the money they sort of ask for.
Yeah. So I've got a few questions for you, but I'm going to go back and I'm going to ask you while you're at this question. I'm sure you must have seen a lot of DIY guys, and I'm sure you've seen people do their own things because of the whole trust issue. Do you see a lot more of them coming to you because they've screwed up your bike, and what do you really tell them? You tell them, hey, listen, did you screw up your bike because you shouldn't have done it yourself? Or do you tell them, hey, listen, you should do it and learn your own bike? What do you tell them?
Straight off the bat, if you fix your bike DIY and then you come to me, you get put in a high slab for prices. I'm kidding. That's a joke. Honestly speaking, to be honest, that's how I learned.
Okay.
That's how I grew up. That's how I learned. So I only, if anything, welcome people to do that. And tell them that if you're stuck, stop.
Yeah.
Understand the problem. Call people up, ask for favors, whatever it is, and fix it. And it's the most satisfying thing to have a problem on a motorcycle and be able to solve it yourself, even if you take help from other people. So I'm all for the DIY culture. I'm all for helping people. That's what we did at Garage 52. We had a ramp that you could come wrench, and you just paid for the ramp. You paid, 500 rupees a day for the ramp, but what you got as a result was whatever, 50 years of collective experience.
But you guys would be standing around. You'd be standing around and telling them. Okay,
you got 50 years of collective experience from all the people standing around to guide you. Yeah. So that 500 rupees was just the cost of the ramp, and I think, no. So coming back to DIY, I only encourage it, and with anything, even kids with motorcycles. There's only two rules when you come around me with, and I'm working on bikes or riding bikes, is you can touch, feel, sit, ride, do whatever you want. Don't hurt yourself. Don't hurt others. Yeah. Because that's not cool.
So what about that guy who comes? What about that guy who comes beside you and say, "Hey, what is this? Hey, what are you doing?" Are you one of those who gets really annoyed at those things? Because
no, not at all. I see. Again, coming back to it, there's two ways as to why people are asking what it is.
To make sure.
If you're curious and you want to know, and you're sort of absolutely sort of passionate about it, and you get the vibe immediately, right? Yeah. So I'll spend all my time explaining it. But if you're the guy who's asking me because you think I don't know, then I'm a little bit like, okay, dude, like bugger off, I don't have time for this. So it's not. I'm more than happy. I mean, knowledge in this day and age is free, and sharing knowledge is absolutely essential amongst all of us. So I don't believe that there are any trade secrets anymore. I don't believe that anybody knows more than anybody else.
Yeah.
So I'm all for sharing that knowledge. Yeah.
Sure. So let's get back to the boring part now. So I have a few questions that a few people have written to me. Somebody from Moto Asha itself has asked, and let me run them through you and see what you have.
Yeah.
Motorcycles, okay, just generally. There was somebody who drives a car at Moto Asha, and they said, you know what, does it really require regular maintenance, and is it really expensive to do maintenance, and does it need it as compared to cars? So, and what do you need to really do to keep that machine running over years? So it's a very broad question, but yeah, you can go for it. Take your time.
Interesting. So funnily enough, I get a lot of this stuff about maintenance, and it's usually after the rains, after someone has had a kid, after someone has, stayed away from motorcycles, whatever. And, like the idle motorcycle leads you to the devil's workshop.
Yeah.
So, the most important thing with motorcycle maintenance is if you ride it regularly, you're going to need less maintenance.
Yeah.
The longer you keep it standing, the more maintenance you're going to need.
Yeah.
Motorcycles, cars, airplanes, they're all built to be run. They're not built to be sitting. So that's something that people need to sort of understand to begin with, right?
Yeah.
And with running motorcycles, servicing at regular intervals, which is like what your manufacturer specifies. So like an oil change at 2,000 or 5,000, depending on what bike you have. It's just oil change, air filters, brakes, which is a consumable, depending on how you use them, and your chain.
Yeah.
If you see to these 5 things, your bike goes a long, long way without having to do much.
Yeah. So while we're at it, I know there are a few things that come into a regular schedule. So like, there are OEMs that come up with a regular schedule of this has to be changed. I mean, I've seen some things that are really odd, like a spark plug being changed at 10,000 kilometers. So that's what. Are there some odd things that you see and you say, hey, this should not be done so soon? It can last you a little longer. Is that something that you look at?
Yeah. So manufacturers will definitely err on the side of caution, especially within the warranty time frame. And of course, manufacturers are out there to make money, man. They're not running a charity. So, of course, they want you to change stuff. Of course, they want you to make money. But I think a lot of common sense should prevail in stuff like this. A spark plug at 10,000 kilometers, maybe you should change it. But then again, look at the spark plug and you'll tell.
Yeah.
Is it worn out? Is it, is there a problem with the spark plug is sort of the window into your engine, right? So you have a look at the spark plug and you tell, okay, my engine's bad at 10,000 kilometers, or my rings are gone, valves are leaking, or the spark plug is just about great. Yeah. So I would tell you, if you went to a authorized service station and they tell you, okay, sir, you need to change, let's say, your air filter at 500 kilometers or 5,000 kilometers, and you look at the air filter and it's brand new.
Yeah.
You tell them, hey, look, I don't want to change this filter. The filter looks brand new. I think it looks brand new, and the responsibility is mine. So I would like if you didn't change it.
Yeah.
And I think those things are, a lot of common sense has to go into these decisions. So
While you're saying this, do you see a crowd, or do you see people who buy motorcycles make those decisions today, or do you still think that we're yet to get there?
I don't want to say
you don't want to say
motorcycles. I want to say this about everything.
Yeah.
About your phone, about your television, about motorcycle, about anything.
You're being very smart about it now. But yeah.
No, I don't know.
I'll
but
take
hold
it.
on. I'm going to tell you that nobody wants to fix anything. Nobody wants to look at anything. They want to ride the bike, they want to park it, and then ride it again. And if I can guarantee you, if a manufacturer made a motorcycle that was self-cleaning, people would pay more money for it because they don't even want to clean their bike. And I don't mean physically clean it, but take it to a wash.
Yeah.
I ride a lot of off-road with like 4 or 5 of my friends, and all of them will tell you the same thing. If I look at their motorcycle and it's dirty, and they're like, "Josh, can you help me?" I will not touch it. I mean, I'm like, there's a problem with your motorcycle, and the problem is because it's dirty, you know.
Yeah.
So once it's clean, then we talk about fixing it. And so coming back to your question, nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to make a decision based on. Nobody wants to research for one. Nobody then wants to say, okay, but they all want to still say the manufacturer is taking most money from me.
Yeah. Yeah,
you know?
That's true.
Oh, my bill is $20,000. But why is it $20,000? He changed this. Did you tell him he could? Did you ask him? You didn't even get into a dialogue. You dropped your bike off, you went to pick it up, and you paid the bill.
Yeah.
So I think people need to be more involved with their kids as well. Okay, I mean, like forget appliances. I think people need to be more involved with their kids as well.
I hear you on this one. But yeah,
it's not a motorcycle thing.
It's a general thing. Okay,
general thing. Yeah.
So let's see. While you're at this one, what are the oddest mods you've seen, and you've gone? Do I need to even tell this guy? Which ones are the odd ones?
Okay, so I saw a guy who came to me to get some work done on a Honda. It was, I think, VFR 400, and it was a clutch, a cable clutch. Okay, so that's like an 80s or 90s bike with a cable clutch. And he said, "Oh, sir, I've converted to hydraulic clutch." And I was like, "Oh wow, that's pretty cool, man." So his hydraulic clutch conversion. Oh wait, sorry, I'm getting the story wrong. It was a hydraulic clutch conversion. His clutch master cylinder gave up, so he had to fix it. So he did jugaad, which is he put a cable-operated clutch normally, ran the clutch wire all the way down, and then onto the frame, he strapped the brake master cylinder, drilled a hole for the clutch wire, and then was using the brake master cylinder to power the hydraulic clutch. And I just looked at it and I was like, fuck.
Ingenious.
And like this kind of ingenuity is amazing.
Yeah.
But no, this is not, you know. So yeah, that's like the OG hydraulic clutch mod, you know, like before all of what you see these days.
Yeah.
Another odd mod was actually something that I built, which was on request. There was a movie for Bollywood. Yeah. I do all kinds of stuff.
You do it.
As long as I'm having fun.
Yeah.
As long as I'm having fun.
There are a few garages that refuse to do it. I'll tell you. I know a few of them, and they would.
I also refuse to do stuff. But I see it as this. Am I going to have fun doing this?
Yeah.
Yes, then I'll do it. If I'm not going to have fun and it's going to be a pain in my ass, no, I'm not going to do it. You know. So I had I can't remember the movie now, but it was like maybe 4 years ago that someone came to me and said, "We want to build a motorcycle for this movie." The end sequence of the movie is a guy with the hero and the sort of protagonist and like his woman counterpart riding away from people chasing them on horses through the sand dunes in a desert.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, yeah, so that's not hard to do. Like, how hard is that, man? You just have a dirt bike and you brake. And they're like, no, the movie is sponsored by Mahindra.
Okay.
So we need a Centuro to do this. A Mahindra Centuro, which is a 100cc motorcycle.
Yeah.
So that's like, okay, that's not going to do that with 2 people up, especially if you're looking at, and they showed me some reference clips of sand dunes and jumping over dunes and like, you know. So what I did was I got a CR125, a Honda, a dirt bike, and we stripped the top of the bike and we put if you picture the Mahindra Centuro from the front fender to the rear fender with the tank, the headlight cowl, the speedometer, the handlebar. We put all of that on a CR125.
Wow.
Made it in such a way that two people could sit on it, and then we shot the movie. So you could see everything.
That's a big mod.
Yeah.
That's a humongous mod. Good one.
Yeah, everything from the front fender up looked like a Centuro, everything, but that thing went like a bat out of hell. And I mean, I don't know, I did it, I'll be honest, I did it for the money, but I also did it because it was a lot of fun. And it was just fucking outrageous.
Yeah, good.
So, yeah.
That's good. That's good. That, I mean, the next time I see you, I might just look for it. I might just be looking behind you. There's something behind you. Yeah. No, interesting. So I've got another question for you, and this is something between me and Priyanka. So we have this fight, which is, and a lot of people, the air cool versus oil cool, the air cool versus water cooled, the bike with electronics, the bike without electronics.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to come with the bike with electronics, bike without electronics. What do you think? Where is it going? And do you think, are we going the right way, or is it difficult to maintain something which is with electronics or something without electronics?
I mean, if you're riding a motorcycle, there's no wrong way, first of all.
Yeah.
So just to start with that. But it depends on the kind of person you are and your taste,
Yeah.
The rawness of a motorcycle with no electronics, and I'm talking like 70s superbike, Z1, CBR 750s, that raw sort of feel of that motorcycle is very, very hard to replicate on a bike that has full electronics of this day and age, So it's two different kinds of motorcycles altogether.
Yeah.
And I think it all depends on what you as an individual would like your connection to that motorcycle to be.
Yeah. Okay. So funnily enough, I asked somebody this, and there was an interesting answer they gave me. They said, if for somebody who rides motorcycles, if you give me 6 different motorcycles in a day, I would enjoy riding all 6 in a day. There'd be a different mode. So in the morning, I'd like to be a little more speedy about things. And then I want to chill out with another cruiser. So, I mean, you're right. There's nothing wrong with which bike you want to buy at what age.
Of course.
Also.
And not even what age, what day of the week. Like, people ask me, what's your favorite motorcycle? And I'm like, what day is it today, So it's,
makes sense.
But there is this huge misconception that fully electronic motorcycles are like terribly refined, very reliable.
Yeah.
It's like your microwave oven on wheels type of thing. You just push some buttons, everything works. And very recently I had somebody who came to me, an older gentleman in his 50s, who came to me, had a Hyperstrada, and he said, man, the rear brake is not effective. And I was like, what do you mean it's not effective? And he said, it just doesn't work. We've tried everything. We've bled it, blah, blah. And I was like, do you mind if I take a ride? And I was like, cool. And I took the bike for a ride, and basically he had the ABS set on to like number 5.
Number 5, yeah.
So when he stomped on the rear brake, he was expecting the bike to come to a halt or the rear wheel to lock, but the ABS is doing its thing and it's giving him the most effective braking. It's just that he doesn't know it. So he's like, oh, nothing's happening. And I'm like, everything is happening. You just don't know it. The computer is doing it all.
Yeah.
So I think that's a very important thing to understand also from people need to be educated a little bit about electronics, and you need to understood what exactly is your ABS, what is it doing for you, how is it helping you, because it's very easy to say, I have ABS, I have 5 levels, but boss, kya kar rahe? Like, that's important. And electronic motorcycles can get very temperamental with age, like fully electronic bikes. If you look at I'll go back to RZ350 with a YPVS, okay?
Yeah.
The YPVS was electronically controlled. This is for like 83. And by the late 80s, early 90s, all of those YPVS units were packing up. And then you couldn't get a YPVS unit. It was like, it was like buying unobtainium. And and of course, electronics have come of age, and people can seal it and they can make it more reliable. But what we are just seeing in India is, it's just been about a decade since we've seen fully electronic motorcycles, and that era is now 10 years old, and those motorcycles are now aging in ways that we may or may not like, with Indian weather, Indian humidity and all of that stuff. And so people are coming to realize that they are no better or different from a non-electronic bike, especially with age, with age, because you can have a wiring unit sort of wire crack or short in a fully electronic bike. You'll be left at the side of the road, and you're like, wait, but this is not supposed to happen. Everything's automated. So why is this happening?
Yeah.
So, and of course, I think coming back to like what we spoke about earlier, I think the headache when this kind of stuff happens is not the owner's headache. It's the mechanic's headache. So I think the owner should enjoy riding the motorcycle and then just find someone trustworthy who he can rely on and be like, hey boss, my bike's not working, fix it.
Yeah.
No, but this electronic, non-electronic debate and like, oh, is it reliable, non-reliable? That should not be the owner's problem. That's the guy who's fixing your bike's problem.
Yeah.
You know, your problem is to ride it. To ride it a lot. Because the moment you keep it sitting, then all of these things happen.
So I guess you've raised that a few times, which is you need to just keep riding and that bike will be okay.
Yeah, man.
Simple.
Yeah.
Good.
That's no other way.
Yeah. So I've got two last questions for you. So if someone's going on a long journey, okay, if it is 3,000, 4,000 kilometers, I know, you there might be a breakdown sometime. So what are the few things you would tell these guys? Listen, carry this, carry this, carry this. I know there's a bunch of things that, I've started foolproofing myself, but then I realized that now I'm carrying more tools than my luggage because I foolproof probably everything, which I shouldn't be doing. But like you said, what are probably the five things that you would carry for sure from a tools perspective?
I tell every modern motorcycle owner to carry a Sharpie, and every morning when they wake up, write the RSA phone number on your right wrist, so just in case you forget it.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
But seriously, if your motorcycle has any special tools like Ducati wheel nuts, stuff like that, which you may not have access to on the road, I would tell you to carry those tools straight up because let's say you have a blown tire or your tires come off age and you need to replace it and you're far away from wherever. So those special tools are important to just keep the bike running.
Yeah.
Something that I always carry with me in some pocket or the other, in a jacket pocket, in my toolkit, whatever, is a chain link.
Yeah.
Because if you do have a broken chain, there's no getting out of that situation.
Yeah. So these are what the chain links that are, but they're like a standard for your bike.
With a lock. With a lock. Okay. So just whatever for your bike, just put it, stash it somewhere, and stash it once and never look at it again, and until you need it. So that's and it's tiny.
Yeah.
That having been said, I don't know.
Would you carry a spare tube or something with you if you knew that
everything's available? There are puncture shops available.
Yeah.
So we do. I go a lot of this enduro riding, and we go on trails which are far from everything. And yes, someone or the other. So between like 3 bikes, we have a set of tubes, like one front, one rear. And I can tell you, in the last 3 years, we've used only one tube.
Yeah.
And okay, you carry the tube. Then will you carry the inflator? Then then do you have the tie irons? Then and coming back to what you said earlier, you carry more tools than your luggage. It's great, and I sell toolkits or tool roll and stuff, and people are like, what should I put in? What should I put in? And I'm like, okay, put in stuff you know how to use.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, if you don't know how to use it, what are you carrying it for?
Exactly. But I get what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, and coming back to what you said about carrying all of these tools, you're riding a very, very modern, reliable motorcycle at the end of the day. So what's the biggest thing that could go wrong? I mean, what would you think? Like for you, in your experience, what do you think is the biggest thing?
Oh, mine is punctured. I know there's a puncture happening somewhere.
So you know that there's a puncture shop everywhere. Like and okay, I don't know if
I know wine shop. I think a wine shop. I miss wine shops on the way. I mean, I'm not riding and drinking, but I mean, when I stop somewhere, I look for a wine shop. So I'll carry wine.
It's the best place to have a breakdown till the RFA shows up.
Yeah.
So,
but
I mean, again, I don't know if this is common knowledge, but tubes are interchangeable, tube sizes. So, like, for example, if you have a 21 tube, you can shove it into an 18-inch wheel.
Oh, okay.
Or a 19 tube, you can just for 26.
Nice.
As long as you don't pinch it, it's going to inflate the tire. You'll get to wherever you have to go and then put the right size tube in,
Yeah.
So, so those kind of things are, these hacks are kind of important. And I really don't recommend anyone who's riding a bike like you are to carry too many tools. It just doesn't make sense.
Doesn't make sense, yeah. I mean, like you said, I come back home and honestly, I've never used anything apart from a puncture kit.
And
that's about it. Apart from that, nothing
and
else.
you're also assuming that a lot of people who ride these motorcycles want to wrench. They just want to ride,
Yeah.
So if they, I mean, I've seen this with experience. If somebody's ride is halted because of a breakdown, they don't want to try and fix it. They just want to get to their destination and enjoy their holiday anyway.
Yeah.
Because you have 7 days off and you don't want to spend 2.5 days fixing it.
Yeah.
So I think that's.
I've seen it happen myself, and I mean, we were heading to Goa and we saw a bike parked at. It was a GS and it was parked in Kolhapur. The puncture guy did not know how to remove the tire. So this guy just puts the bike back, sends it back to Pune, and he's still on his way to Goa. I mean, he calls his friend, he's like, let's go to Goa. And so you're right.
Of course.
That's how it works.
So I mean, especially unless you're doing sort of a round the world trip and you have all the time in the world to do whatever you like,
Yeah. Good. Yeah. So I've got one last question for you, and you can be really quick.
Sure.
Be it an old bike, be it something that someone has owned for 5 years, 10 years, what are the top 3 mods that you would do functionally to make that bike better with technology? I mean,
big bright lights, louder horns, and a button that makes both of them work together.
Nice. I like it. Great.
Oh, wait. Don't
you got more. Free-flowing
exhaust. It has to burn a hole in your pocket, but definitely burn the exhaust valve as well.
Yeah. That has to be. But yeah.
I mean, so the top 3 mods for everybody, whether you're a new bike owner, you had a bike for 5 years, whatever it is, I think, and I'd like to call them free mods, okay, because they're not, you don't spend money on them.
Yeah.
The first one is to adjust your levers, your footrest, your gear pedal, and to suit your fingers and your feet and your riding position.
Yeah.
A lot of people 90% of people buy motorcycles out of showroom, ride it, and they just think this is how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Not realizing that your levers are adjustable, your brake pedal, your gear pedal is all adjustable.
Yeah.
Depending on the boot you wear, depending on the size of your foot, depending if you want to stand or sit. And I think that is probably the most overlooked thing that any motorcycle owner, whether you're a vintage bike owner or you ride a modern bike, people completely overlook this fact. I think that's very, very important. The second one, and this is true for all modern motorcycles, whether you're buying a 250cc and above bike, is to set the sag for your kind of riding.
Yeah.
Whether you're going to ride single, 2-up touring, with luggage, without luggage, it's important that you set the sag because the manufacturer's sag is set for what they call an ideal rider with ideal weight.
Would that be a 60 to 80 or what would that be?
Yeah, I think the number for males is 85 and for females it's 62. So I think it's within that number, but I could be wrong with the numbers, but I think that's the number.
Yeah.
But it's not for you. It's not for you with your luggage. It's not for you and your partner or whoever that you're riding with and the luggage. So ideally, whether you're light, big, whatever, set it. Even if it comes back to the manufacturing spec, that's great. But do that sag setting because you'll realize that the suspension works so much better for your sort of riding style.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the third one is just fill gas and go ride, man. Saddle time beats any mods that you could think of. I think all of us, you, me, everyone, we all have a preconceived notion of what a motorcycle should feel like. Like I would get, let's say I'm riding X motorcycle and then I stop and then the next day I pick another bike and I go and I'm like, oh, the clutch seems heavy or the brake is whatever, the bite is not great and I have to, sort of decelerate more or I cannot carry as much speed into corners. But this is my muscle memory of yesterday's motorcycle.
Yeah. And then you get used to that bike and you start riding.
And you're expecting, this motorcycle to do that job.
Yeah.
So I think it's important that whatever motorcycle we have or we purchase, is to go ride it for months. I would say months, literally months, put time on it and then say, okay, this is not enough for me. I mean, I know people who, yesterday someone called me and said, I bought an X-Pulse and I bought a rally kit and I want to go ride dirt. And I was like, dude, first just ride the X-Pulse by itself. Just by itself. Then put the rally kit on so you understand what this motorcycle is and what changes you're doing to it, because you're going to confuse yourself. And I honestly believe that 6 months down the line, there are going to be so many expulses with rally kits and people not knowing, not liking this motor. Not liking the motorcycle. They're like, this is not the bike I want. And it's going to be great for people who want to get into the sport. So I think everyone who's, little buying advice for anyone who's looking for an expulse is wait 6 months. But I think these three mods are possibly the best thing you could do for your motorcycle. And of course, everything else after this is as per your taste, man. If you can't see at night, yes, have brighter lights. If you like to use a horn while riding, please feel free to do that. I mean, it's all based on your individual taste.
Well, that's interesting, especially the ergonomics part. There are people who come to us at Motor Asha and they've just bought the bike. And the first thing they get to us and they say, hey, listen, do you have rocks riders? And that's what we tell them. We're like, have you ridden your bike and does it really, do you need it? And then these are like adventure bikes. And we keep telling them, you really need it. I thought your manufacturer has made it as per, the reason they've made it to be sitting upright. And so, I don't know if they've got it wrong, but just please ride it a little bit and then let us know if you really need those riders. But you're right. There's a lot of uninformed.
I did the GS Trophy in 2018.
Yes. I wanted to speak to you about that as well.
The motorcycles were bone stock.
Okay.
Bone stock. Okay. Yeah. Nothing was changed on it from manufacturing. Nothing was allowed. You couldn't take your own rider and say, oh, my hands are too short or my fingers are too short. I want to do this. Nothing. This is a fair play kind of thing. There's a fair play. This is how you ride it. And in 10 days of riding, some of like the harshest sort of terrain on the planet, falling down, getting up, all of this stuff, I did not feel the need to do anything else but literally make those basic adjustments for the lever positions when I'm standing up and my brake and gear pedal so that my boot I wouldn't have to pick my boots off the peg. Yeah. But that was all the changes I did in all of that time, and it worked amazingly well. So rocks risers, all of this stuff, they're very specific things that are needed for very specific sort of situations. And you should not get it because the guy on the forum told you to get it, or because your friend has it, or because it's anodized blue and it makes it look cooler. You should get it because you really think it's adding value to your riding experience,
Yeah, makes sense. Great. I think, Josh, you've probably gone through everything and more with us. Thanks so much. I think I honestly was trying to find somebody who could address some of these things in a very, in a nice way. But good stuff, man. I think it'll be insights for a lot of people. But yeah, good. Thank you so much for being on.
All right, and call me anytime if you need anything.
For sure. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people who write to us and say, hey, listen, we'll speak to Josh. So yeah, we'll share your number with them also. Don't worry.
Share my email, please, not my phone number.
Okay, great. I'll do that. Thank you so much. Thanks for this. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, take care.
Bye.
Hi again. It's Suhaib. Thanks for listening to this podcast. If you have anything to say about motorcycles and more, DM us on Instagram, and I'll be more than happy to get you on the show and hear your experiences.